In a world that glorifies chaos, peace is rebellion. Everywhere you turn, people are rushing to answer, to defend, to prove. Conversations are competitions, silence feels uncomfortable, and patience is mistaken for weakness. But there's a particular kind of person who moves differently through all of this noise. They don't match the energy of the room. They don't fight fire with fire. When everyone else is escalating, they stay level. When voices rise, theirs remain steady. And somehow, quietly, without fanfare or force, they end up winning. Not winning in the loud, obvious way. Not through domination or proving they're right. They win because while everyone else is burning through their energy, reacting to everything, calm people are making decisions. Real ones. Strategic ones. The kind that actually move their lives forward instead of just creating more chaos to manage. If you've ever wondered what separates people who seem unshakable from those who are constantly thrown off balance, it comes down to something most of us misunderstand entirely. Calmness isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's not about being naturally mellow or emotionally detached. It's a form of power that most people never learn to access because they mistake it for weakness. We've been taught to value the immediate response, the quick comeback, the person who doesn't let anything slide. In our culture, if someone disrespects you and you don't react, people assume you're weak. If someone challenges you and you pause before responding, they think you're uncertain. We've confused speed with strength and reaction with power. But neuroscience tells us something different. When you react instantly to emotional triggers, you're not operating from strength. You're operating from your amygdala, the ancient part of your brain designed for survival. Fight or flight. Attack or retreat. It's fast, yes, but it's also primitive. It doesn't think. It doesn't strategize. It just reacts based on perceived threat. Calm people, on the other hand, have learned to engage their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for complex thinking, emotional regulation, long-term planning. When they pause before responding, they're not being weak. They're giving their brain time to shift from reactive mode to strategic mode. That pause, that single moment of delay, is where power actually lives. The person who reacts immediately might feel powerful in the moment. They got their anger out. They defended themselves. They didn't back down. But what did they actually accomplish? Usually, they just escalated the situation, burned energy, and closed off options. The calm person who paused, they observed, calculated, and chose their response based on what would actually serve them, not just what would satisfy their immediate emotional impulse. Reactivity is instinct. Calmness is intelligence. Here's something most people don't realize until it's too late. Every argument you engage in, every emotional outburst you have, every time you let someone pull you out of your center, you're spending energy. Not just emotional energy, life energy. The kind you need for things that actually matter. Calm people understand this intuitively. They operate from what you might call an energy economy. They're not misers with their emotions. They're strategic about where their energy flows. Because they've learned a fundamental truth. Whatever you focus on, you feed. When you feed anger, it grows. When you feed anxiety, it multiplies. When you feed every small offense with your attention, you become a person whose life is consumed by managing offenses. But when you feed calmness, when you protect your peace like it's sacred, something shifts. The chaos around you loses its power, not because the chaos disappears, but because you're no longer giving it the one thing that makes it powerful, your reaction. Think about the loudest person you know, the one who always has something to say, who jumps into every conflict, who can't let anything go. They might seem powerful, they might seem passionate, but watch them closely. Watch how exhausted they are, how often they're in crisis, how little actual progress they make. Despite all that energy expenditure, they're leaking power through every emotional crack. Now think about the calmest person you know. They might seem quiet, passive even, but notice what they actually accomplish. Notice how people come to them for advice, how they move through obstacles that would destroy others, how they build things that last. They're not expending energy on reaction. They're conserving it for creation. Peace isn't passive. It's the most active form of power there is, because it takes enormous strength to not react when everything in you wants to explode, to breathe when you want to shout, to wait when you want to attack. That restraint isn't weakness, it's control. And control is the foundation of all real power. Most people lose not because they're not strong enough to win. They lose because they're fighting every single battle they're invited to. Someone says something provocative online, they have to respond. Someone questions their judgment, they have to defend. Someone misunderstands them, they have to explain. They're bleeding energy into 1,000 small conflicts, while the things that actually matter go unattended. Calm people have learned something crucial. Not every battle deserves your presence. In fact, most don't. The person trying to provoke you on social media, they don't matter. The colleague who always has a critique, not worth your energy. The family member who questions every decision you make, let them question. This isn't about being a doormat. It's about understanding that engaging with everyone who wants your attention is a trap, because attention is finite, energy is finite, time is finite, and the person who can bait you into spending your resources on meaningless conflicts has effectively neutralized you without ever landing a real blow. Emotional maturity is recognizing that silence can be more powerful than any argument, that walking away can be more effective than winning, that sometimes the strongest move is simply refusing to play the game. When you stop taking every bait, something remarkable happens. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. And intentional people are dangerous. Not in a harmful way, but in the sense that they can't be controlled. They can't be manipulated. They can't be pulled off course by emotional provocations. They know where they're going, and they don't let distractions determine their path. The calmness you see on the surface isn't accidental. It's built on something deeper, usually years of self-awareness, often pain that's been metabolized into wisdom, always a commitment to knowing yourself well enough that other people's chaos doesn't become your chaos. People who have done real inner work stop being triggered by every little thing. They stop taking everything personally. They recognize that when someone is attacking them, 90% of the time it has nothing to do with them. It's projection. It's someone else's unresolved pain finding a target. And when you understand that, you stop needing to defend yourself against every criticism, because you know the attack isn't really about you. This is what emotional maturity looks like. It's not about never feeling angry. It's about not being owned by your anger. It's not about never being hurt. It's about not letting hurt dictate your actions. It's the ability to feel everything fully, while still maintaining agency over what you do next. When you heal your own wounds, when you face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding, your nervous system stops interpreting everything as a threat. You stop confusing peace with boredom. You stop needing drama to feel alive. You start craving clarity instead of intensity. And that's when calmness becomes your natural state. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped fighting everything. So how do you actually cultivate this? How do you become someone who stays calm when everything around you is chaos? It's not a switch you flip. It's a practice you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. First, learn to pause. Before you respond to anything that triggers emotion, wait, just a few seconds, a few breaths, long enough for your prefrontal cortex to come online, long enough to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Will responding actually improve anything? Or am I just feeding the chaos? Second, detach from the noise. Not every opinion about you needs your attention. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every argument deserves your participation. Protect your peace like it's the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Third, practice observing your emotions without immediately acting on them. This is crucial. You can feel angry without having to express that anger right now. You can feel hurt without having to make someone pay for it. There's space between feeling and action. That space is where freedom lives. Fourth, create stability in your external life. You can't maintain inner peace if your outer world is constant chaos. Build routines that ground you. Establish boundaries that protect you. Create an environment where your nervous system can actually relax. Peace requires safety, and sometimes you have to build that safety yourself. Finally, spend time in solitude. Not isolation, but intentional time alone. Peace is a muscle. It strengthens in silence. If you're constantly surrounded by noise, constantly consuming other people's emotions, constantly engaged with the world's chaos, you'll never build the inner stillness that calmness requires. Here's something you might have noticed. Calm people attract things. Opportunities seem to find them. People trust them. Leaders seek their counsel. They don't chase success the way others do. They just become the kind of person success gravitates toward. This isn't mystical, it's psychological. Calmness communicates something powerful on a subconscious level. It says, I am not desperate. I am not threatened. I am not trying to prove anything. I am simply here, grounded in myself, moving with intention rather than reaction. That energy is magnetic because it's so rare. Most people are frantically trying to prove their worth, defend their choices, convince others they matter. The calm person doesn't need to do any of that. They're self-contained, complete, and that completeness draws people in. When you're calm, people feel safe around you. They know you won't explode. They know you won't create unnecessary drama. They know they can bring you problems without you making those problems worse. That safety creates trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, every successful collaboration, every real opportunity. Calmness also signals something else: confidence. Not the loud, performative kind, the real kind. The kind that doesn't need validation because it's rooted in genuine self-knowledge. Calm people know who they are. They know what they value. They know where they're going. And that certainty is attractive in a world full of people who are constantly second-guessing themselves. Peace doesn't make headlines. It doesn't generate likes or views. It doesn't create the kind of drama people love to watch. But it lasts. And in a world obsessed with instant gratification, lasting is the ultimate victory. Calm people win because they're playing a different game than everyone else. While others are competing for attention, they're building substance. While others are reacting to every trend, they're focused on timeless principles. While others burn out chasing external validation, they're cultivating internal stability. They don't need to win every argument because they're not measuring success by how many battles they dominate. They're measuring it by the life they're actually building, the relationships that sustain them, the work that fulfills them, the peace that allows them to enjoy what they've created. And here's the paradox. When you stop fighting everything, when you stop trying to control everything, when you release your grip on needing everything to go your way, things start flowing toward you more naturally. Not because the universe rewards calmness with magic, but because you're no longer blocking your own path with constant resistance. Calm people win because they understand something fundamental about how life actually works. Force creates resistance. Reaction creates escalation. Chaos creates more chaos. But peace, real peace, creates space. Space for clarity, space for good decisions, space for things to unfold as they need to. In a world that demands constant reaction, staying calm is an act of rebellion. It's refusing to participate in the collective hysteria. It's choosing to be present instead of reactive. It's deciding that your peace matters more than winning arguments with people who won't change their minds anyway. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you powerful, because the person who can remain centered while everything around them spins out of control has an advantage no amount of aggression can match. They can see clearly, think straight, move strategically, and when everyone else is exhausted from fighting, they're just getting started. So maybe the question isn't how to win in a chaotic world. Maybe the question is how to stay calm enough that you don't get swept up in chaos that was never yours to begin with. How to build a foundation so solid that nothing can shake it. How to become the kind of person who doesn't need to prove they're powerful, because their presence alone communicates it. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of control. And that control, that ability to choose your response, instead of being controlled by your reactions, that's why calm people always win. Not in the moment, but over time, in ways that actually matter, they win. Because while everyone else is still fighting, they're already free.